Most people think that learning Italian vocabulary is all sweat and tears, an endless grind. But there is a shortcut that you've probably never heard of. As an English speaker, you have access to a huge chunk of Italian vocabulary that you can memorize almost effortlessly. 1,500 words in 15 minutes sounds impossible, impossibile, right? But this shortcut can actually unlock thousands of words. So why did I promise 1,500? Because 1,500 high-frequency Italian words are all you need to handle a simple conversation, una conversazione. I'm going to show you how to use this shortcut effectively so you can improve your reading, writing, listening comprehension, and start speaking much faster than you thought possible. Now, what truly baffles me is that in over 3 decades of first learning and then teaching Italian, I've never seen anyone explain this, let alone teach people how to use this shortcut correctly, correttamente. The secret vocabulary key is cognates. And I just slipped in a few. Impossibile, impossible. Conversazione, conversation. Correttamente, correctly. Did you catch those? Italian-English cognates are words that exist in both Italian and English. They share the same roots and often have the same meaning and a very similar spelling. Italian and English have a deep historical connection through Latin, Greek, and French. These words didn't just happen to look alike, they evolved from the same linguistic roots and traveled through history together. Overall, there are actually around 3,000 words that Italian and English share. To learn those words, you need to know how to approach them, how to process them, and how to memorize them. But the good news is, as an English speaker, even as a complete beginner, you already know enough Italian words to speak and understand if you have the right key to unlock that incredible treasure trove. Cognates are not random. They follow patterns you can recognize, learn, and leverage. And I'm going to share some of these patterns. So get your vocabulary notebook ready. We're about to make some serious additions. As you hear each Italian word I pronounce, repeat it aloud. Let's begin with nouns. A lot of Italian nouns ending in zione have their English counterparts ending in -tion. The words in this category typically come from Latin and they're very common cognates. Let's take a look. Nazione, nation. Informazione, information. Situazione, situation. Another category you should always pay attention to are Italian words ending with ta, with their English counterparts ending in t. Università, university. Identità, identity. Libertà, liberty. Attività, activity. Let's explore one more. Nouns ending in ore in Italian and or in English. These words generally tend to refer to people or things that perform an action. Dottore, doctor. Attore, actor. Direttore, director. Professore, professor. So see, these are very easy to learn and to retain. Now, let's explore some adjective cognates. Ale in Italian and ele in English. These adjectives typically describe general characteristics. Nazionale, national. Personale, personal. Naturale, natural. Generale, general. And of course, we have many categories of verbs that are cognates as well. And these come straight from Latin, which is why they line up so beautifully. Creare, to create. Educare, to educate. Partecipare, participate. Collaborare, collaborate. Every time you come across a word that you recognize as a cognate, make sure you look for a pattern. There's always a pattern with these cognates, and each always belongs to a group. Now, there's a reason why cognates work so beautifully. In the 3D method, our teaching methodology, We believe in building on what you already know. And that's exactly why cognates are so incredibly powerful. Even as an absolute beginner, cognates allow you to tap into Italian right away without endless drills. You can start using Italian actively much sooner than you imagine. And we've seen thousands of beginners make real, tangible progress simply by learning how to leverage cognates effectively. Now, why do they work so well? Because your brain doesn't appreciate novelty. It craves familiarity, la familiarità. It tends to reject new information if it doesn't fit into a recognizable pattern, but it clings to anything that is familiar, familiare. Cognates fit beautifully into patterns that already exist in your brain. They require less effort to remember and make vocabulary, il vocabolario, feel accessible instead of overwhelming. And this is also the reason why in Italian You, my book, even though I've written it in English, I intentionally weave Italian cognates throughout the pages. It's a way to train the reader's brain to recognize patterns, to build confidence early, and start feeling at home in Italian. Because even as a beginner, you suddenly realize that, oh my God, I know so much Italian. Now, let's look at how to actually recognize cognates and start adding them to your vocabulary. Even though cognates feel very familiar, just recognizing them is not enough. You need to treat them as new vocabulary. And that's really the key to retaining them, to learning them correctly. Now, the thing is, cognates feel intuitive and easy to retain. They are easy to retain. So most learners fall into the trap of thinking, well, I already know this word. Why should I invest time in learning it? But the thing is that to use cognates actively while speaking Italian, you need to process them just like any other word. But let me walk you through the most important steps of learning vocabulary. So we recommend running each new cognate through the 3D vocabulary framework, a step-by-step checklist designed as part of the 3D method. Now, this system is proven. It ensures you fully grasp the word's meaning, the pronunciation, the context, and you turn it into a reliable and active part of your Italian toolkit. It's very important not to skip this step because this is what makes the magic of cognates. Always start by looking up the cognate in a dictionary, whether it's a paper dictionary or your digital dictionary. Do not assume something is a cognate only because it looks like another word. More on this later. Write the word in your vocabulary notebook with the original sentence it came from. Then listen and repeat the word. Write a new sentence, something that has actual meaning for you, something that has to do with your real life, with your world, using that word. Say the sentence out loud. Imagine that you're actually in that moment. Very important, the day after, tomorrow, check the words from today and make sure that you actually remember them. Now, this was a very, very short version of the 3D vocabulary checklist, and still many learners are tempted to skip this process when working with cognates. But trust me, if you want to use a cognate confidently and correctly, you need to treat it like a brand new word. That's the secret. So add it to your vocabulary notebook, learn it, practice its pronunciation, review it regularly, just as you would do with a completely new word. The good news is while you still need to process your cognate, it will be so much easier to retain it. It's just free vocabulary. Now, there is a catch. Cognates, ironically, are the words that you're most likely to mispronounce. And this is something I see very often. Students are lulled into a false sense of security by the ease of cognates. So they skip learning the pronunciation altogether. And learning pronunciation is incredibly important as you learn your vocabulary, as you process your new words. But it looks too easy to invest time in. After all, pronuncia and pronunciation are so similar, especially if you just read them. Ripetere and repeat are the same. Differente is different. So why would you spend more time on words you apparently already know? The thing is that the very fact that cognates feel so familiar, it trips us up. You're used to a word that's painfully similar, but not quite the same. So this subtle difference is where mistakes usually creep in. That's why it's so incredibly important to pay special attention to pronouncing cognates correctly. So give that extra attention to your new cognates. Say them aloud. Make sure you articulate the Italian version correctly several times. Let's practice a bit. Say these words with me. Pronuncia. Ripetere. Differente. They don't feel obvious, do they? So please, give cognates the care they deserve and make sure your pronuncia is always spot on. Now, quick word of caution. Among the many friendly cognates that support your Italian journey, there are a few troublemakers, the so-called falsi amici, false friends. These sneaky words look familiar and sometimes reassuring, but their meaning is very different. And if you trust them blindly, if you just assume they're cognates, they can trip you up. For example, let's take parente. It looks like parent, but in Italian it actually means relative. Same roots, different path. This is why recognizing a cognate is never enough. Every word still needs to be checked, looked up, learned in context, and treated with care. Here are a few interesting examples. Delusione is not delusion, it's disappointment. Ultimamente is not ultimately, it's recently or lately. Attualmente is not actually, it's currently or at the moment. Educazione is not education, it's manners or upbringing. Libreria is not a library, it's a bookstore. Now, the good news is that there are thousands of true cognates and only a relatively small number of false friends. And once you know they exist and you know how to handle them, they're easy to manage. False friends, these sneaky little beasts, deserve a dedicated video. So make sure that you click on the subscribe button below so you don't miss it when it comes out. Now, there's a wonderful side effect that comes with leveraging Italian cognates. You don't just expand your vocabulary, your entire relationship with the language changes. When learners start leveraging cognates correctly, something shifts. Reading feels lighter. Listening becomes less intimidating. Speaking stops feeling like a constant leap into the unknown. Now, this happens because cognates give your brain proof that you already understand more than you think. Cognates turn Italian from a wall into a bridge. I love that metaphor. Now, the more familiar patterns you recognize, the more your brain relaxes. And a relaxed brain learns faster, retains better, and dares to use the language. That's why cognates are not just a vocabulary shortcut. They are a powerful confidence-building tool. It helps you feel part of the language. It helps you become part of the language because you realize how much of it is already part of you. Now, there's one more thing that you need to be aware of. Even when an Italian sentence is full of cognates, you might still feel it's completely obscure. And I've seen this happen. And when I asked students about it, they said there's like a voice in your head that says, you can't possibly know this. You haven't learned it. And I find this fascinating. I see this happen very often. And there is only one way out of this kind of linguistic blindness. Using Italian cognates or anything you've learned really isn't just about vocabulary. It's also, and I dare say mostly, about how you approach the language. It's about your mindset, how you deal with self-sabotage, how much you trust your intuition, and how harshly you judge yourself. Your linguistic mindset determines whether you fly or fall, freeze or move forward. Make sure you watch this video to discover the most common mindset pitfalls that learners of Italian face and how to remove them so your learning can finally flow.